Gangamatim Sharanam Prapadye Avakara Kamala Vare Rakha Madhuta Singam Talita Hiranyakashipu Dano Bringam Keshavatrita Narahari Rupa Jaya Jagadisha Hare Jaya Jagadisha Hare Jaya Jagadisha Hare Jaya Nrsingadev, 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 Jaya Jai Prahlad Maharaj, Prahlad Maharaj, Prahlad Maharaj, Jai Prahlad Maharaj, Jai Srila Prabhupada ki Jai, Nrsingadev Bhagavan ki Jai, Prahlad Maharaj ki Jai. Krishna book reading. Krishna, 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 Hey. Krishna, 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 Hey. Krishna, 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 Raksha Mam. Krishna, 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 Bahi Mam. Rama Raghava, Rama Raghava, Rama Raghava, Raksha Mam. Krishna Kesava, Krishna Kesava, Krishna Kesava, Bahi Mam.
So we're reading from the Krishna book, chapter 69, Lord Krishna's daily activities. From the Vedic mantras we learn that the Supreme Personality of Godhead has nothing to do. Na tasya kauriyam kaurananam cha vijate. But if the Supreme Lord has nothing to do, how can we speak of the activities of the Supreme Lord? From the previous chapter, it is clear that no one can act the way Lord Krishna does. We should clearly note this fact. The activities of the Lord should be followed, but they cannot be imitated. For example, Krishna's ideal life as a householder can be followed. But if one wants to imitate Krishna by expanding into many forms, that is not possible. We should always remember, therefore, that Lord Krishna, although playing the part of a human being, simultaneously maintains the position of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. We can follow Lord Krishna's dealings with his wives as an ordinary human being, but his dealings with more than 16,000 wives at one time cannot be imitated. The conclusion is that to become ideal householders, we should follow in the footsteps of Lord Krishna as he displayed his daily activities, but we cannot imitate him at any stage of our life. Lord Krishna used to lie down with his 16,000 wives, but he would also rise from bed very early in the morning, 3 hours before sunrise. By nature, the crowing of the cock warns of the Brahma Muhurta hour. There is no need of alarm clocks. As soon as the cocks crow early in the morning, it is to be understood that it is the time to rise from bed. Hearing that sound, Krishna would get up from bed. But his rising early was not very much to the liking of his wives. So
I'm at your mercy. Whenever you decide to give me, I'm grateful.
I was on a roll.
You get into the zone.
In the zone.
Krishna would get up from bed, but his rising early was not very much to the liking of his wives. The wives of Krishna were so much attached to him that they would lie in bed embracing him, and as soon as the cocks crowed, Krishna's wives would be very sorry and would immediately condemn the crowing. In the garden, within the compound of each palace, there were parijata flowers. Parijata is not an artificial flower. Remember that Krishna brought the parijata trees from heaven and implanted them in all his palaces. Early in the morning, a mild breeze would carry the aroma of parijata flower, and Krishna would smell it just after rising from bed. Due to this aroma, the honeybees would begin their humming vibration, and the birds also would begin their sweet chirping sounds. Altogether, it would sound like the singing of professional chanters engaged in offering prayers to Krishna. Although Srimati Rukmini Devi, the first queen of Lord Krishna, knew that Brahma Muhurta is the most auspicious time in the entire day, she would feel disgusted at the appearance of Brahma Muhurta, because she was not very happy to have Krishna leave her side in bed. Despite Srimati Rukmini Devi's disgust, Lord Krishna would immediately get up from bed exactly on the appearance of Brahma Muhurta. An ideal householder should learn from the behavior of Lord Krishna how to rise early in the morning, however comfortably he may be lying in bed, embraced by his wife. After rising from bed, Lord Krishna would wash his mouth, hands and feet and would immediately sit down and meditate on himself. Therefore, this does not mean, however, that we should also sit down and meditate on ourselves. We have to meditate upon Krishna, Radha Krishna. That is real meditation. Krishna is Krishna himself. Therefore, he was teaching us that Brahma Muhurta should be utilized for meditation on Radha Krishna. By such meditation, Krishna would feel very much satisfied. And similarly, we will also feel transcendently pleased and satisfied if we utilize the Brahma Muhurta period to meditate on Radha and Krishna, and if we think of how Sri Rukmini Devi and Krishna acted as ideal householders to teach the whole world, so the whole human society, to rise early in the morning and immediately engage in Krishna consciousness. There is no difference between meditating on the eternal form of Radha Krishna and chanting the Maha Mantra, Hare Krishna. As for Krishna's meditation, he had no alternative but to meditate on himself. The object of meditation is Brahman, Paramatma, or the Supreme Personality of Godhead.
I'm sorry.
Samadhi. Good. Samadhi is the highest level.
But Krishna himself is all three. He is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Bhagavan. Localized Paramatma. The localized Paramatma is his plenary partial expansion. And the all-pervading Brahman effulgence is the personal rays of his transcendental body. Therefore, Krishna is always one, and for him there is no differentiation. That is the difference between an ordinary living being and Krishna. For an ordinary living being, there are many distinctions. An ordinary living being is different from his body, and he is different from other species of living entities. A human being is different from other human beings and different from the animals. Even in his own body, there are different bodily limbs. We have our hands and legs, but our hands are different from our legs. The hand cannot act like the leg, nor can the leg act like the hand. The eyes cannot hear nor can the ears see like the eyes. All these differences are technically called swajatiya vijayatiya. The bodily limitation, whereby one part of the body cannot act as another part, is totally absent from the Supreme Personality of Godhead. There is no difference between his body and himself. He is completely spiritual, and therefore there is no material difference between his body and his soul. Similarly, he is not different from his millions of incarnations and plenary expansions. Baladev is the first expansion of Krishna, and from Baladev expanded Sankarshan, Vasudev, Pradyumna and Aniruddha. From Sankarshan there is again an expansion of Narayan, and from Narayan there is a second quadruple expansion of Sankarshan and Vasudev, Pradyumna and Aniruddha. Similarly, there are innumerable expansions of Krishna, but all of them are one. Krishna has many incarnations such as Lord Nrsimha, Lord Boar, Lord Fish and Lord Tortoise, But there is no difference between Krishna's original two-handed form, like that of a human being, and those incarnations of giant animal forms. Nor is there any difference between the action of one part of his body and that of another. His hands can act as his legs, his eyes can act as his ears, or his nose can act as another part of his body. Krishna's smelling and eating and hearing are all the same. We limited living entities have to use a particular part of the body for a particular purpose, but there is no such distinction for Krishna. In Brahma Samhita it is said, Angani yasya sakalendriya vritti. He can perform the activities of one limb with any other limb. So by analytical study of
analytical study of Krishna and his person, it is concluded that he is the complete whole. When he meditates, therefore, he meditates on himself. Self-meditation by ordinary men, designated in Sanskrit as soham, is simply imitation. Krishna may meditate on himself because he is the complete whole, but we cannot imitate him and meditate on ourselves. Our body is a designation. Krishna's body is not a designation. Krishna's body is also Krishna. There is no existence of anything foreign in Krishna. Whatever there is in Krishna is also Krishna. He is therefore the supreme, indestructible, complete existence of the supreme truth. Krishna's existence is not relative existence. Everything else but Krishna is a relative truth. But Krishna is the supreme absolute truth. Krishna does not depend on anything but himself for his existence. Our existence, however, is relative. For example, only when there is when there is the light of the sun, the moon, or electricity, are we able to see. Our seeing, therefore, is relative, and the light of the sun and moon and electricity is also relative. They are called illuminating only because we see them as such. But dependence and relativity do not exist in Krishna. His activities are not dependent on anyone else's appreciation, nor does he depend on anyone else's help. He is beyond the existence of limited time and space, and because he is transcendental to time and space, he cannot be covered by the illusion of Maya, whose activities are limited. In the Vedic literature, we find that the Supreme Personality of Godhead has multipotencies. Since all such potencies are emanations from him, there is no difference between him and his potencies. Certain philosophers say, however, that when Krishna comes, he accepts a material body. But even if it is accepted that when he comes to the material world, he accepts a material body, it should be concluded also that because the material energy is not different from him, this body does not act materially. In the Bhagavad Gita it is said, therefore, that he appears by his own internal potency, Atma Maya. Krishna is called the Supreme Brahman because he is the cause of creation, the cause of maintenance, and the cause of dissolution. Lord Brahma, Lord Vishnu, and Lord Shiva are different expansions of these material qualities. All these material qualities can act upon the conditioned souls, but there is no such action and reaction upon Krishna, because these qualities are simultaneously one with and different from him. Krishna himself is simply Sachit Ananda Vigraha.
The eternal form of bliss and knowledge. And because of his inconceivable greatness, he is called the Supreme Brahman. His meditation on Brahman or Paramatma or Bhagavan is on himself only and not on anything else beyond himself. This meditation cannot be imitated by the ordinary living entity. After his meditation, the Lord would regularly bathe early in the morning with clear, sanctified water. Then he would change into fresh clothing, cover himself with a wrapper, and then engage himself in his daily religious functions. Out of his many religious duties, the first was to offer oblations into the sacrificial fire and silently chant the Gayatri mantra. Lord Krishna, as the ideal householder, executed all the religious functions of a householder without deviation. When the sunrise became visible, the Lord would offer specific prayers to the sun god. The sun god and other demigods mentioned in the Vedic scriptures are described as different limbs of the body of Lord Krishna, and it is the duty of the householder to offer respects to the demigods and other great sages as well as the forefathers. As it is said in the Bhagavad Gita, the Lord has no specific duty to perform in this world, and yet he acts just like an ordinary man living an ideal life within this material world. In accordance with Vedic ritualistic principles, the Lord would offer respects to the demigods. The requisite principle by which the demigods and forefathers are worshipped is called tarpana, which means pleasing. One's forefathers may have to take a body on another planet, but by performance of the tarpana system, they become very happy wherever they may be. It is the duty of the householder to make his family members happy, and by following this tarpana system, he can make his forefathers happy also. As the perfect exemplary householder, Lord Shri Krishna followed this tarpana system and offered respectful obeisances to the elderly superior members of his family. His next duty was to give cows in charity to the Brahmanas. Lord used to give as many as 13,084 cows. Each of them was decorated with a silken cover and pearl necklace. Their horns were covered with gold plating, and their hooves were silver plated. All of them were full of milk, due to having their firstborn calves with them, and they were very tame and peaceful. When the cows were given in charity to the Brahmanas also were given nice silken garments, and each of them was given a deer skin.
And sufficient quantity of sesame grains. The Lord is generally known as Go Brahmana Hitaya Cha, which means that his first duty is to see to the welfare of the cows and the Brahmanas. Thus he used to give cows in charity to the Brahmanas, with opulent decorations and paraphernalia. Then, wishing for the welfare of all living entities, he would touch auspicious articles such as milk, honey, ghee, clarified butter, gold, jewels, and fire. Although the Lord is by nature very beautiful, due to the perfect figure of his transcendental body, he would dress himself in yellow garments and put on his necklace of Kaustuba jewels. He would wear flower garlands, smear his body with a pulp of sandalwood, and decorate himself with similar cosmetics and ornaments. It is said that the ornaments themselves became beautiful upon being placed on the transcendental body of the Lord. After decorating himself in this way, the Lord would then look at marble statues of the cows and calf, and visit temples of God or demigods like Lord Shiva. There were many Brahmanas who would come daily to see the Supreme Lord before taking their breakfast. They were anxious to see him, and he welcomed them. His next duty was to please all kinds of men belonging to their different castes, both in the city and within the palace compound. He made them happy by fulfilling their different desires, and when the Lord saw them happy, he also became very much pleased. The flower garlands, betel nuts, sandalwood pulp, and other fragrant cosmetic articles offered to the Lord would be distributed by him first to the Brahmanas and the elderly members of the family, then to the queens, then to the ministers, and if there were still some balance, he would engage it for his own personal use. By the time the Lord finished all these daily duties and activities, his charioteer Daruka would come to his wonderful chariot to stand before the Lord with folded hands, intimating that the chariot was ready, and the Lord would come out of the palace to travel. Then the Lord, accompanied by Uddhava and Satyaki, would ride on the chariot, just as a sun god rides on his chariot in the morning, appearing with his blazing rays on the surface of the world. When the Lord was about to leave his palaces, all the queens would look at him with feminine gestures. The Lord would respond to their greetings with smiles, attracting their hearts so much so that they would feel intense separation from the Lord. Then the Lord would go to the assembly house known as Sudharma.
It may be remembered that Sudharma and the Sudharma assembly house was taken away from the heavenly planets and re-established in the city of Dwarka. The specific significance of the assembly house was that anyone who entered it would be freed from the 6 kinds of material pangs, namely hunger, thirst, lamentation, illusion, old age and death. These are the webs of material existence, and as long as one remained in that assembly house of Sudharma, he would not be infected by the 6 material webs. The Lord would say goodbye to in all 16,000 palaces, and again he would become one and enter the Sudharma assembly house in procession with other members of the Yadu dynasty. After entering the assembly house, he used to sit on the exalted royal throne and would be seen to emanate glaring rays of transcendental effulgence. In the midst of all the great heroes of the Yadu dynasty, Krishna resembled the full moon in the sky, surrounded by multi-luminaries. In the assembly house were professional jokers, dancers, musicians and ballet girls. And as soon as the Lord sat on his throne, they would begin their respective functions to please the Lord and put him in a happy mood. First of all, the jokers would talk in such a way that the Lord and his associates would enjoy their humour, which would refresh the morning mood. The dramatic actors would then play their parts, and the dancing ballet girls would separately display their artistic movements. All these functions were accompanied by the beating of the mridanga drums and the sounds of the veena, flutes and bells, followed by the sound of the pavakya, another type of drum. Although with these musical vibrations, the auspicious sounds of the conchal would be also added. The professional singers called sutas and magadas would sing, and others would perform their dancing art. In this way, as devotees, they would offer respectful prayers to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Sometimes the learned brahmanas present in that assembly would chant Vedic hymns and explain them to the audience to the best of their knowledge. And sometimes some of them would recite old historical accounts of the activities of prominent kings. The Lord, accompanied by his associates, would be very much pleased to hear them. Once upon a time, a person arrived at the gateway of the assembly house who was unknown to all the members of the assembly, and with the permission of Lord Krishna, he was admitted into the assembly by the doorkeeper. The doorkeeper was ordered.
We're done.
2 minutes?
2 minutes, too short.
Okay, Lord Krishna's daily activities. Ki,
Jai.
Krishna Book Ki.
Jai.
Very amazing. And just one quick thing, that when Krishna expanded, he's expanded into 16,000 forms, and then he's living separately with the wives, and he comes to the assembly hall, and he joins into one, isn't it? Merges into one, and it's like these sci-fi movies, you know.
Exactly.
And they just do it by computer thing, you know. But Krishna's, there's nothing new under the sun.
That's where they got the idea.
Yeah.
From Krishna.
It all comes from Krishna's activities, from the Vedas.
Yes.
Nothing new under the sun. Interesting. Okay.